Good morning. It's Saturday, May 30th. We're reading through the Bible. I'm here to give you a preview of where we're going in our reading. Today, we're reading 1 Chronicles chapters 28 and 29. In chapter 28, David accepts being disallowed from building the temple, which is a great perspective. I said earlier in the week, sometimes we don't get to have what we want in this temporal life. We don't get to see all of our desires fulfilled. We don't always have the life that we thought we would have. And we come to learn to live with that. And David is a good example of this in that he accepts the fact that he is not the one to do what his heart really desired to do, and that was to build the temple. So he's not allowed to do that. He accepts that, and he charges others to do what he cannot do, what God does not allow him to do. And he's excited for other people. He really can rejoice with those who rejoice. I mean, other people are living out his dream in this case, in terms of doing for God what he really wanted to do. And what a good attitude we see there. And he collects an offering in chapter 29 for the building of the temple. We see the offering that he gives, his devotion, David's devotion and his prayer. It's a great section that we're going to read in 1 Chronicles. That's our Old Testament reading, 1 Chronicles 28 and 29. Our New Testament reading is ending this reading of John 11. This is our third day now in John 11. We're reading verses 47 through 57, just 11 verses, and yet they are filled with important information that we need to read slowly and thoughtfully. This is where many people rather want to get Jesus, want to kill Jesus, want to see him die. And this is a typical example of Jesus in his ministry being who he is and presenting himself accurately, and people saying we don't want that. As he says in his illustration in his parable in the Gospel of Luke, he says, we don't want this man to rule over us. And that's certainly what people were doing. They were chafing against, as Psalm 2 says, the authority of God. And Caiaphas unwittingly prophesies, it's an interesting passage, is it not, where here he says it's better for one man to die for the whole nation, for the people, because he was concerned that Rome, if this man that was becoming so popular, Jesus, were to keep going, that we would see Rome come and take away the statehood of Israel. And he said, we don't want that. Better if we see him killed, which John points out that this is a prophetic statement. He didn't know what he was saying, but it's certainly true. He would die for the people. He would die for the people, not just to get this troublemaker out of the way, but as the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of those in Israel who put their trust in him, as well as us. So the meaning of all of this is important, and we see that kind of double meaning in the sense that someone can say something, not know what they're saying, and God utilizes that in his plan. And certainly that is a fascinating part of John 11. Our community imperative, as we continue through 1 Thessalonians, is found in chapter 2, verse 9. Let me read it for you. 1 Thessalonians 2:9, it says, "For you remember, brothers, our labor and our toil. We work night and day that we might not be a burden to any of you while we proclaim to you the gospel of God." We didn't want to be a burden, so we worked hard to make sure we weren't a burden on you. We've seen this in some of our one another's earlier in the year, and the idea of us making sure, here's how I put it, that we're not a drain on each other, I think is a good way to think about our lives. How am I affecting other people? Am I unnecessarily a drain on them? Now, if I need other people to help bear my burden, I get that. But some of us, we don't think very often about the effect of my life or the things that I enjoy, that I want to get out of a conversation even. Maybe it's just me talking when I should be listening. There's a lot of aspects of the Christian life where we can easily become a drain in other people's lives. And it's not that we check out and we don't interact. It's that we learn to serve, and we learn to give, and we learn to sacrifice, and we learn to make sure that we are for other people something that God would have us be. And one thing that we don't want to be is an unnecessary drain on people. And that's the word that I put. He says we didn't want to be a burden to you. And sometimes our life, we need to burden other people with our burdens, and we get that. But don't unnecessarily do that. Don't be a drain on each other. Don't be a burden unnecessarily on someone in the Christian life. So that's a good reminder for us as we think through our Christian life and our interaction with other people. So 1 Chronicles 28 and 29, John chapter 11, verses 47 through 57. We'll be back tomorrow as we continue through our reading of the Bible.